gentle beings, as you all know, the first annual Intergalactic Imagination Connoisseurs Film Festival is accepting entries now. You've always wanted to make a movie. You know you have. Now is your chance. Until December 1st, we are accepting entries not just from Earth, but from anywhere in the universe. You have no excuses. Time to make a movie. Well, greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, your master of fun and wonder, your viceroy of verisimilitude, your sommelier of science fiction and cinema, your archbishop of Banterbury, your chancellor of cheerfulness, I don't know, your pharaoh of physical media, and of course, your existential Mr. Rogers. That's right, Robert Meyer Burnett. And I am robcasting at you. You imagination connoisseurs, you members of this, the Post-Geek Singularity community. And I would be remiss if I did not. I don't believe I've introduced her on the show properly, but we have a new moderator, a fantastic moderator, somebody who is dazzling in her beauty and incredible in her wit and intelligence, Purple Valkyrie. And she will fuck you up if you disrespect her. So welcome Purple Valkyrie as our new moderator. It's good to have her. But I'm just telling you, she'll drop a ban hammer on you if you're not nice. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, I want to begin this show with something that's kind of important. One of our Post-Geek Singularity members, Josh Rosowskis, who he has his own YouTube show. You know him. He's been dealing with physical disabilities that we don't normally have to deal with ourselves. The man is a warrior. Well, what's interesting about Josh is I was thinking about him because we haven't heard from him or seen him around these parts in a while. And it was kind of like the old Repo Man story. Remember I told you the Laurie Walters part when he's talking about, shrimp or plate of shrimp in Repo Man? Like when you're thinking about something that you shouldn't have been for whatever reason you're thinking about something, and then instances of that thing that you were thinking about just suddenly are all over the place. Well, I was literally thinking about Josh Rosowskis, and I was wondering, this was yesterday, and I was wondering, where is Josh? Like I haven't seen him or heard from him. I don't know what's up, and I don't even know why he popped into my mind, but he did. 30 minutes before I went on today, his mother reached out via Twitter to me and John Campia and Aaron Cummings and told us that Josh had surgery a couple of weeks ago and asked if there's something we could do, maybe make a video or something and give him a shout out. Now, I don't know anything about professional wrestling. Josh is a huge wrestling fan. I'm certain he's probably a huge MMA fan. But like I said, those people might be fighters and warriors, but Josh has been fighting his whole life. The man is a warrior. And apparently he had surgery a couple of weeks ago, and his mother reached out asking if we could do something, make a video, give him a little pick-me-up. Well, this is my my entry into the Josh Rosowskis Pick-Me-Up Club. And I would say, Josh, you have the entire Post-Geek Singularity behind you, sir. I mean, people want to come back and see your YouTube channel. They want to come and hear your voice. I want you to criticize me and give me a hard time for something. I don't know. The important thing is we are pulling for you, sir. And I don't know the details of your surgery, just what your mom tweeted out. By the way, what a great mom you have for reaching out to us on Twitter. And I want to thank her. Terry, is your mom's name Terry? Thank you for reaching out, but I just wanted you to know, Josh, that everybody here at the Burnettwork and the entire Post-Geek Singularity, we are pulling for you. And if you can, maybe throw us an update, tell us what's going on. Should we send you like DoorDash some favorite foods of yours or something? We could do that. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what you like to eat or drink. But anyway, this is just me saying, get better, and I hope all is going well for you. Reach out if you need to. Hey, if you want to come on live and give us an update, I have no problem with that either. But I am thinking about you, sir, and we are all pulling for you, and I hope you feel better and get well soon. But you know what? On the other hand, I could also say, now that you're laid up after surgery, you can just watch this show all the time. That could either be a good thing or a bad thing. It could either be healing or you might want to throw stuff at the screen. I don't know. But I hope you're feeling better. And I really was thinking about you, and it was crazy that your mom reached out over Twitter. I was like, that's so weird. It's just like in Repo Man. Shrimp or plate of shrimp. You just start thinking about it. Anyway, feel better, sir. And we can't wait to hear from you and hear about your progress. Get back onto YouTube soon. And that's all I have to say. By the way, since you're laid up, you should watch the Seahawks game today because they're going to win, just so you know. They're the Sunday night game on Fox, right? Check it out. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as you all know, kind souls, gentle beings across 28 known galaxies, I was banging on Friday about Drew McWeeny had tweeted out about the Bond, about No Time to Die, the new Bond film. As you all know, I'm a huge James Bond fan, and believe it or not, 8 years ago today, I was in Leicester Square in front of the Odeon Cinema in London. I had flown to London by myself to see Skyfall. And there was a picture. I took a picture. I watched them put up the billboards in front of the theater. Now, the Odeon Cinema in Leicester Square is where a lot of the Bond films opened. And when I went there in 2012 to see the 50th anniversary Bond film, which was Skyfall. And I had bought tickets in advance. And my friend Charlie de Lazarica met me there. And some friends from Norway, Terz and his girlfriend, his wife, they came. And my friend Emma came that I met on Superman Returns. And we had a little bit of a crew going to see. I was staying at the St. Martin's Lane Hotel in London's West End, which is my favorite hotel in London. Actually, it's the only hotel I've ever stayed in London, but I love the hotel. I've been there 3 times, and it was great. I went and saw that, and I was reminded of that by Facebook that it was 25. It was 8 years ago today. So anyway, as you know, the last show I did was all about Drew McWeeny reporting that the latest James Bond movie, No Time to Die, there was something was going on. I mean, if you watch the show, I was speculating that maybe somebody would buy the Bond franchise. Well, yesterday, Variety published an article about what was actually going on. Now, what I thought was going to happen, I was wrong, which, I'm not always right. I mean, I would like to think of myself as the Oracle of Delphi of the entertainment business. Sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm wrong. I was wrong in this case, or at least wrong up until now. So I wanted to share with you this article because it's fascinating stuff if you're a Bond fan. James Bond's No Time to Die explored a $600 million sale to streaming services. Wow. Okay. Apple, Netflix, and other streaming services explore the possibility of acquiring No Time to Die, the upcoming James Bond movie that was originally slated to debut last April. The film's release had been postponed multiple times, with the Daniel Craig vehicle moving back to November before being pushed into 2021 as the number of coronavirus cases kept growing. Well, as of today, we had just as many coronavirus cases diagnosed yesterday and today as have ever been on a daily basis in America. I feel like all of my sheltering at home has been for naught because we're going into the winter and nothing really has changed. So the idea that theaters are going to be opening normally, yeesh. MGM, the studio behind the film, reportedly lost between $30 million to $50 million due to the delays, Insider says. Bloomberg first reported the discussions which have been the topic du jour in Hollywood this week. Other studios such as Paramount and Sony have raked in tens of millions by selling movies like Greyhound, Coming to America 2, and Without Remorse to streaming services, while the exhibition sector continues to struggle during the pandemic. We do not comment on rumors. The film is not for sale. The film's release has been postponed until April 2021 in order to preserve the theatrical experience for moviegoers, an MGM spokesman told Variety. However, multiple insiders at rival studios and companies said that a possible bond sale was explored overtly and believed that MGM was at least open to the possibility of unloading their crown jewel for a princely sum. The studio is said to be looking for a deal of roughly $600 million, a price tag that was deemed too rich for two of the free-spending streaming services. A sale of this magnitude would be led exclusively by Kevin Ulrich, the chairman and CEO of MGM's majority owner, Anchorage Capital Group, insiders said. It's unclear if producers Barbara Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson, who exert control of the series through their company Eon, would sign off on the deal. Universal Pictures, which has foreign distribution rights to No Time to Die, would have to be made whole in any possible sale and reimbursed for any expenses the studio incurred. That the parties involved would explore a streaming sale is notable, given that the film was the first tentpole to move release dates before coronavirus was upgraded to a global pandemic, making it an early indicator that even the iconic Spy and Ladies' Man would not save us from the viral event. Moving No Time to Die to a streaming service poses some logistical challenges. The film costs more than $250 million to produce and has lined up several promotional partners to help defray those costs, including Land Rover, Omega Watches, and Heineken. Those companies may have been expecting the film to hit theaters and might not be thrilled with a streaming-only bow. Coming to America's sale to Amazon, for instance, was contingent on making sure that its promotional partners, McDonald's and Crown Royal, like Royale with cheese, were on board with the change in plans. Now, that is very interesting. Like, I was thinking that, as I talked about on the last Robservations, that they were going to sell perhaps the entire franchise, all of the movies in one big deal. Now, it's been reported that this $600 million would only be for a year, and then everything would revert back to Eon and revert back to MGM, all of those things. Now, as we've talked about before on this show, Netflix, and on the John Campea show, Netflix in 2019 paid $100 million to license Friends for one more year before Friends moved back over to HBO Max. $100 million to show Friends for 1 year. Now, I didn't have all the information. I just read Drew McWeeney's tweet, and people were speculating, but I found it very interesting that the number they were looking for was $600 million. Now, here's the thing. As we have talked about on this show before, it has been reported that No Time to Die was paid for. And I don't know if the Broccoli family, if Barbara Broccoli, one of my heroines, I mean, I'd love to meet her, as I've said before. Can you imagine? I can't get over the fact that there was an article that I read where Barbara Broccoli was dating, she was the girlfriend of one of the preeminent chefs, like a TV chef in England. And he was talking about like how she would buy him a Picasso or something, like, and somehow their relationship didn't work. And I kept thinking to myself, I'm like, in all of human history, there's one woman on the planet Earth. One woman. I mean, she's cute. She's a little older than me, so, you know, I don't know about that. And I'm perfectly secure in my relationship. But I'm thinking, how could you not want to date a woman whose job it is, her family business, is to make James Bond movies? And she'll, like, buy you a Picasso? When I read this article, I have to say, and I forget the chef's name, I'm like, dude, bruh. I mean, I understand she's wearing the pants in your family, but still, who wouldn't want to have a girlfriend that buys you Picassos and make James Bond movies? I don't know. Anyway, I'd heard that they actually paid off the production costs. And I don't know if it was Barbara Broccoli herself or Michael Wilson. They did it together. So what that did was that alleviated the fact that the interest payments, normally movies are made with borrowed money. No longer, No Time to Die has been paid for, so they can delay it, and they're not accruing more interest payments to banks and things. So remember, when a movie gets distributed and say it grosses $1 billion, that doesn't mean that the studios get $1 billion back. They get pretty much maybe 60% of that, depending what the deals are. So, you know, and then they have to defray not only the cost. So let's just say it's 50% for the sake of argument. So if a movie makes $1 billion and the studio gets $500 million back, $500 million back, and then a movie cost $250 million to make, so now you're down to $250 million left, and then marketing costs on Spectre were $200 million, reported to be $200 million. So the studio would make $50 million in profit. I mean, this is a gross oversimplification. But imagine, so MGM was approached by streamers, apparently, and Apple and Netflix, and I guess the number they threw out was $600 million. Now, if they had done that, and you've got the costs to pay back, but so the Broccoli family, whatever, would have to be remunerated for their payments, or if they paid off the production costs. So $600 million really isn't that much, and apparently the deal was only going to be like for Friends for a year. So $600 million. But if you think about that, as far as studio money goes, because they didn't have to release it theatrically, you're making some decent profit off that, even if it was $600 million. I was speaking about the fact the other day that they were going to buy the Bond franchise, buy all the rights to the 25 films and all of that, and they would buy Eon's rights to make more James Bond movies. So I was uninformed. I didn't know what was actually going on. But to hear that there were offers for $600 million that were rejected is interesting. Now, I don't know if you could make those economics work. Would $600 million be worth it to a Netflix or an Apple to get No Time to Die exclusively for a year? Would the amount of subscriptions that resulted? I mean, I've read articles that the campaign for Netflix subscribers to leave because of cuties was very successful. They hemorrhaged subscribers. But again, I don't know. These are things I've read. But interesting. I mean, from a business standpoint, again, nothing. We're in crazy unknown territory with what's going on with COVID. So I don't know. But $600 million could have been a game changer as far as the industry. The question is a movie worth that to a streaming service? Clearly, it didn't go through, but maybe it was because MGM didn't want to do that. But here's the thing. The COVID cases in the United States are going up. You know, we're at peak COVID. It's just different places. And where are we going to be? There's spikes in the rest of the world. I mean, like they pointed out in the article, No Time to Die was the first big movie to move off of its release date back in April. They've moved it a couple times now. It's been pushed back. But are movie theaters going to be open? I mean, in America, we have not buckled down and done the work. And that's why COVID cases have been going up. And I'll blame it. You know what? 5 members of Mike Pence's staff have COVID now. I mean, we just haven't done the work. And whether forget whatever you think about it, but COVID is not some democratic hoax. It's around the world, and we just haven't done what we need to do to get rid of it. And this is not political. This is academic, and we can see by the rising cases and hospitals that are getting overwhelmed in certain parts of the country. We're going into the winter. Who knows what's going to happen? Will No Time to Die? Will any movies open? Will Wonder Woman keep its holiday 2020 release date? I don't know. Hard to say. But it's all very interesting. And the idea that a movie, I mean, if No Time to Die had sold to a streamer for a year for $600 million and then the rights revert back, I would have thought I was under the impression that when I was doing the show 2 days ago, that somebody would buy the rights for No Time to Die and they would own it in perpetuity throughout the universe, which means they would end up buying the entire Bond franchise. I mean, the Star Wars franchise sold to Disney for $4 billion. Now think about that. There's 25 official Bond films that have been made since 1962, and there have been perennial favorites since then. That's a lot of money. I mean, that's a lot of that's a library. That alone is a very lucrative library. Is that library worth more than Star Wars? I don't know. But I know that the Bond franchise moving forward, there's a lot you could do, as I was talking about on the show the other day. You could do a Spectre series. If you own the Bond screen rights, do a TV show about Spectre. You know, there was that show a long time ago, I think it was on Fox, called Prophet, with Adrian Pasdar as the star of it, like an evil industrialist. I mean, who wouldn't want to watch a show called Spectre? The comic book series that I published that was very close to being made with Skydance. Yes, I know, the people that financed J.J. Abrams' Star Trek. Skydance was very close to turning the comic book series that I self-published, Living in Infamy, which was written by Ben Rabb and Derek Hughes, who are executive producers, have been executive producers on the CW's Green Arrow. They created that show, and we almost got that made. Living in Infamy is about the FBI's witness protection program for supervillains. You know, that was close. I don't know why I just brought that up, but anyway, I did. Self-serving, I know. But the idea that a streamer could do something like, well, it was about supervillains, the same way that you could do a Spectre show. And I think doing a show about the rise of Spectre or Blofeld's career throughout his life could be a great series. Or like we talked about, doing a Lashana Lynch spinoff. I mean, I have to tell you, I think Lashana Lynch, when it was first announced she was perhaps playing a 00, that people are like, oh my God, you know, Lashana Lynch is hot as fuck in her Bond persona, in her fatigues, and she looks great. And just looking at the image, they have new character posters for No Time to Die, and when you see her character poster, like, that's a show. You know, that's a show. I would watch that show. And even just her attitude from the trailers, who wouldn't want to do that? So I could see just owning the Bond screen franchise now for a streamer. You could create, why not, a connected Bond universe, which could be incredible. I mean, you could even do a show where you go back and you readapt the Ian Fleming books and make it all period. I mean, I've often said that From Russia with Love, I think, is one of the great distillations, the great adaptations of what Fleming was doing. I think it's terrific. Why not go back now? I mean, look at period shows are very cool. Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, so cool. A show that has those kinds of production values, that's about, you readapt the Bond films but as period pieces, and you go back to the original books, could be very, very cool. I mean, the Moonraker of the novels is very different from the Moonraker that we got in 1979. So wouldn't it be cool if you went back and readapted the books? Because if you're going back and making them period pieces, you're not constrained by what movie-going audiences necessarily want, which could be interesting. I mean, anybody who owns those rights could go back and readapt all of the Fleming novels. You could go back and you can get the John Gardner novels. I mean, who knows? It's wide open. But apparently it did not happen. So that was what was going on. 600 million was the number. That's what Apple and I guess Netflix were grappling with. Kind of interesting. But it did not happen. Will we see No Time to Die? Will we see No Time to Die in April of 2021? I hope so, because as a lifelong Bond fan, I loved True Detective Season 1. Cary Fukunaga directing this. I can't wait. And Léa Seydoux. I mean, it looks fantastic. Please, Bond, please, please, please don't be delayed again. I'll be very, very sad. Anyway, what can you do? Well, I'll tell you what I can do. I can read letters from people, and you guys have sent me great letters. Enterprise H, NCC 1701H, who is a great letter writer, writes, "Greetings. First, have you managed to find Enter the Wolves among your comics? I have not. Secondly, I have watched the Star Trek fan film First Frontier. I did too. Before I write anything else, how does it feel to share the first name with the first captain of the NCC 1701? Well, it feels pretty good. It never really registered with me until I heard Sarah April call him Robert. As for the fan film itself, I am less harsh with non-canon material and even less with the work of fans, but if you've seen it, I had a question. How often can Earth get attacked before it becomes stupid that there is no proper defense? I get it that the United Federation of Planets and Starfleet must have vulnerabilities in order to generate drama, but this is the Federation's capital and not some random planet. If Elba 2, as we saw in Whom Gods Destroy, can get a planetary shield, then at what point do you suppose the technology became available in canon? Apart from that, I like the actors, and they surpassed Discovery in terms of uniforms as far as I'm concerned, although I suppose that 2245 uniforms would more closely resemble the attire of Garth of Izar. I don't know if I'm sold on the holographic technology being used in this era. I guess that Enterprise utilized it, but if we're taking that series into account, then I want to know what the Mars Verderon array was doing during the battle." That is from the last two episodes, the last three episodes, if you don't include These Are the Voyages. It's not that I'm entirely opposed to the notion, but it would look less advanced to make it blend in more with the setting. Yeah, look, I liked First Frontier. That I thought, as a fan film goes, it was pretty epic. There's been a lot of talk these days recently of the Axanar project that I was involved with for 3.5 years, because I have teamed up with Christian Gossett and Paul Jenkins. The three of us were all directors of the Axanar feature film project at one point. And, well, with Paul Jenkins, the two shorts that now CBS mandated could be made. And we've teamed up. We're making a documentary series. Now it's going to be 6-part, called Lords of Their Realm, where we're going to delve into Star Trek, not just Star Trek fandom, but fandom in general, and look at how fandom has become so toxic. And we're using the Axanar situation as something to examine that with. It's going to be pretty fascinating. I'm really excited to get into it. We had a great meeting the other day, the four of us, the executive producer, Mike Bodden, who's also one of the impresarios of this channel, and the three directors, the three amigos, the three wannabe directing amigos. But yes, it's going to be great. Really, it's going to be a lot of fun. And I think we're going to do a fandom a service by exploring these issues. But I thought First Frontier, as far as Star Trek fan films go, is pretty ambitious. Really, really liked it. And, talking about the Verderon array, definitely something that should be taken into consideration. So thanks for writing in. I always like your letters. You are a deep-cut Star Trek fan, and you know how much I like that. Which I do. Which is fun. Omar94 writes in and says, "Rob, since it is the month of Halloween, I wanted to give a review for the Barry Sonnenfeld, I think it's Sonnenfeld actually, Barry Sonnenfeld, Addams Family movies. Sonnenfeld's two Addams Family movies are on Freeform all the time for the month of Halloween, and I watch them regularly during this month every year. I enjoy both movies, finding them to be delightful and fun. While I like both movies, I actually like the second movie, Addams Family Values, more. I was pretty impressed with how both movies are able to combine several different plot points in a way that made sense and flowed in a linear fashion. Both movies have great production design, hair and makeup, and costumes, but the best parts of those movies are the humor and the acting performances. Some of what I found funny could be off-putting to others. I think a spider just came in my mouth, no. But for example, one incident I find funny but others might not is in the first Addams Family when Uncle Fester helps Wednesday and Pugsley with their school play. as during their play, fake blood and body parts go all over the place, with blood splashing all over audience members, shocking the audience but pleasing the rest of the Addams family, especially when the rest of the family is cheering and saying bravo, while the rest of the audience is stunned. In Addams Family Values, all the stuff I find funny happens when Wednesday and Pugsley are at camp and have to deal with everyone else there, like camp counselors Becky and Gary Granger, a girl called Amanda Bruckman, and a boy who befriends them called Joel Glicker. One scene I find funny for some reason is when Amanda pretends to drown, saying, "Help me, I'm dying," to which Wednesday says bluntly, "I can't swim," annoying Gary Granger. That moment after Wednesday saying she can't swim and seeing Gary's facial expressions always makes me laugh. The casting is great, from Christopher Lloyd as Fester, Angelica Houston as Morticia, and even the supporting characters like Joan Cusack as Debbie from the second movie, Christine Baranski and Peter McNichol as Becky and Gary Granger, Mercedes McNabb as Amanda, and David Krumholtz as Joel Glicker. However, the best performance by a mile in both movies is the late Raul Julia as Gomez Addams. Julia's performance as Gomez always makes me smile because of how much fun he seemed to be having and how passionate and over the top Gomez is in both movies. It's a real shame he is no longer with us. Anyway, that's my review of the Barry Sonnenfeld Addams Family movies. I find them to be just good, fun entertainment. Live long and prosper. Well, Omar, I'm with you, man. I'm a big fan of those films. Yeah, I think that's great. I love them, and I think you're right. They are definitely movies that are of the season, and I think for sure it's you gotta love it. You've got to love it, or love them. Wow. Okay. Let's see. Did I? No, let's see. I've got so many different letters. There's so many letters that people have been writing in. It's incredible. Okay. Well, I keep looking at these, and there's so many of them. This letter comes from Jared Snyder. Hi, Rob, and the members of the Post-Geek Singularity. Let us listen in as Alex Kurtzman calls Sonequa Martin Green to inform her that she has been selected to play Michael Burnham. Cell phone ringtones. Sonequa Martin Green, hello. Alex Kurtzman, hi Sonequa, it's Alex. Congratulations here at Secret Hideout. We're committed to creating a new Star Trek that will be so much more inclusive and diverse than any previous series, and we think you're perfect to exemplify that. Sonequa, wow, what an honor. So I'm the first person of color to be cast as a lead? Alex Kurtzman, no. Sonequa, the first woman cast as a lead? No. The first person of color to be a captain? No. The first female captain? No. I'm a captain? No. I'm the first female bridge officer of color? No. I'm an officer? Well, yes, but only until you commit mutiny in the first episode. I'm a new character? Well, not exactly. You're the sister of a beloved character. Great. Cisco? Travis? Uhura? No, a Vulcan character. Tuvok? I really like Tim Russ. It'd be fun. No, not Tuvok. Savik? We'd be sisters. No, not Savik. It's Spock. Geez, you're Spock's adopted sister. Wait a minute. When did Vulcans adopt Earthlings? Well, they do now. So, Spock is my big brother who teaches me the Vulcan way? No, Spock is dyslexic and can't control his emotions. I'll be his sister who helps him overcome his disability? No, he's seething with resentment towards you. I'm related to an iconic character who hates me? Exactly. It's brilliant, isn't it? You don't think if Spock hates me, the fans will hate me? You'll get new fans. Well, what am I like? You're super logical and know-it-all, devoid of emotion, no empathy, and you'll commit mutiny. And people will relate to my character? Of course, because you're diverse. Don't you see? Okay, well, does it pay well? Netflix is just about printing money. Then I'm in. Live long and prosper. Ah, sure, whatever. You too. Sounds of call ending. Best wishes, Jared M. Snyder. Well, Jared, I have to say, and I'll flat out say it. I really like Sonequa Martin Green as an actress. I do. I don't like that she's literally become a certain magical person trope in Star Trek. I mean, she's seemingly the entire universe does revolve around her, and I think that the way her character has been written has been terrible. And you know, the premise that Brian Fuller came up with for this show, that we're not going to follow somebody, the commander, but we're going to follow the second in command or the first officer. I loved this idea. But the way between her mother and her, they're like the most important people in the universe. They have torpedoed the idea that they had set forth, that Brian Fuller had set forth, which was to explore what is it like to be the main character, to be subordinate to the captain, obviously. And it just hasn't gone well. And every time I watch her, I think she's doing the best she can with the material. I don't blame her at all. I think she's wonderful. I think she's beautiful. I think that she's a great actress. I think she's given terrible material. I think Discovery's problem, well, look, I can't stand the design of it all, but again, that's the writer, producers, the showrunner, Kurtzman, everybody involved with Discovery has produced something I think is I've said it before, I think it's the worst televised science fiction show I've ever seen, because you have Star Trek to base it on. You have 50 years of Star Trek history. Your show should be the creme de la creme. It should be the Tiffany standard of televised science fiction. You know, I was just tweeting out when the Voyager crashed on a planet, on a snowy land, everybody died. The Voyager, everyone died. When the Discovery crashes on a planet, crashes a capital ship crashing on a planet, minor inconvenience. We'll fix it in a couple hours. Anyway, I can't. Don't get me started. But anyway, I want to thank you for that article, for that letter. I enjoyed it. This one comes from Steve Gerard, writes in a letter and says, before there was Star Trek Discovery Season 3, The Burn, we saw Babylon 5's own great burn. You know what? I had absolutely forgotten about this. Let me put this in the live chat for everybody. If you're Babylon 5 fans, and you should be, here is something about Babylon 5's great burn itself. That is in the chat. So check that out. I want to thank you for writing in and pointing that out. I love it. I love it. From our old friend, well, not old friend, I don't want to call them old, but Electron Star Collapse writes in. Electron Star Collapse says, Rob, I have a strange confession to make. I've told people for years I've been a lifelong fan of Star Trek, yet I'm not so sure I can really say that anymore. No, I don't blame the new movies or CBS All Access. I feel like my love of the multiple series is more through osmosis than it is from true exposure, but I would like the Post-Geek Singularity to be the judge of this. Star Trek has been a part of my life since I was born in 1983. My parents owned a video store, and my father was an avid fan of the series, so I was surrounded by the IP at home and at their work, which I would be often be taken. I vividly remember a poster for the voyage home on the walls of the store, only to show up later on the walls of our house. We had the transporter pad home video releases of the original series, even though we could always watch reruns on our local CBS affiliate. We even had an arcade machine of Star Trek Strategic Operations Simulation. And I know I watched the show before the 90s. I have vague memories of the Corbomite Maneuver episode and my father talking about the Tranya. I remember a lot of bridge scenes in general from this time, but the only episode I had better memory of was when watching Where No Man Has Gone Before from our VHS tapes. I believe we more often would see Star Trek 4 and 5 on television, usually HBO. Until recently, I thought I never completely viewed either movie, but now I know I watched the entirety of both, and I just pieced together in multiple playthroughs. Because I was young, it was hard for me to understand why the Starfleet uniforms changed so much, to which I would only get the response, they had a lot more money to make the movies. This was also around the time when The Next Generation came around, which I was interested. My family seemed somewhat interested at the very least. I feel like I know a lot more complete episodes of TNG percentage-wise than any other Star Trek series. I know there were a lot of complaints of the quality of the writing in the first season, but my brain was too undeveloped to fully appreciate the quality of writing, just the strange new worlds. So why do I feel that I might not be able to call myself a fan of Star Trek? I don't know, Electron Star Collapse. I don't know. I'm distressed about this. I think it mostly boils down to my inability to defend it. I was the only person in my school, other than my 4th grade teacher, that had any passion for Star Trek. Everyone else thought it was old or boring or stupid. Of course, school was stupid to a lot of my classmates, as many were more interested in joining the street gangs, only made humorous by the fact that we were in the agricultural lands rather than the inner city. You know what? That's kind of funny. Like, I'd love to see a movie about street gangs in the agricultural belt of some country. What do? Fight each other with pitchforks? No, hay baling? I had one friend that was completely engrossed into Star Wars, much more intensely than my love of Star Trek, but we never could bridge our gaps to get each other to really appreciate our respective loves. I had no one that I could share my love of Star Trek with. Ultimately, this meant that my desire to fill my gaps in watch history and pursue Deep Space Nine and Voyager were much lesser. Don't get me wrong, Deep Space Nine is actually my greatest regret not keeping up with, as I loved every episode I did watch. Voyager, on the other hand, couldn't keep me interested as a whole series, and only selective episodes like Scorpion and Tuvix. Enterprise was both interesting and boring to me at the same time, which is an amazing feat of accomplishment. However, I think my mindset was in a horrible place at the time, and I plan to give it a much better chance after I watched through the other stuff once again. I realized much of my love of Star Trek actually comes from the movies themselves. After catching an airing of Wrath of Khan, I learned the character originated from Space Seed and proceeded to watch the episode from our VHS collection, having never seen it in any of the reruns. I think my parents must have taken the family to see the movies in theaters, but my first vivid memory of Star Trek on the silver screen was when my grandmother took us to see The Undiscovered Country. I think the memory of it in theaters alone might be the reason why Star Trek VI is my favorite of the series. Still, after re-watching it, I realized there are some fundamental problems with its in-your-face Cold War parallels, and writing which seems less like Star Trek at times and more like Sherlock Holmes and The Hunt for Red October. At my father's advice, I didn't watch the original motion picture for many years. Over the years, I also learned that much of my father's advice was crap, so I watched it anyway and added one more note of advice to the crap heap. He faulted the movie for the same reasons many people did, which was that it was a shallow copy of The Changeling, and it just felt more like an expensive TV episode rather than a high-quality movie. I'll admit that it looked like Starfleet was dressed like medical cruise liners, but there was a lot more going on for the movie than it is given credit for, plus the fact that it felt like a TV episode means that it succeeded in properly feeling like it belonged with the original series. I don't agree that it was just some other episode or even Nomad in disguise, but I do think my exposure to later movies ruined much of the wonder and awe that I could have experienced if I'd watched that movie first. When it came to the Next Generation movies, I could only watch the first two. My father really liked all of them not spelled Generations, but I've had problems getting into both Insurrection and Nemesis. I would start the movie and say, well, that's interesting, then have my attention taken elsewhere somehow. I'm torn with my feelings about First Contact, which was the last great Star Trek movie I actually saw in cinemas. I feel like the acting was grand, especially coming from Patrick Stewart's Whale Hunt, but the story felt like it was playing fast and loose with canon to the point that Deep Space Nine had to ultimately ignore the events of the movie to prevent messing with their own series canon. Voyager nosedived into the movie's canon, so that might also be a part of my contention with the series. As far as Generations is concerned, I liked it better than The Final Frontier, plus I was able to watch the movie more than once, so it kept my attention better than the latter sequels. Now, I should mention that I did play quite a few PC games. I'm stuck on the final dogfight of the 25th anniversary game. I used to own a numbered edition of Judgment Rights, which came with a copy of The City on the Edge of Forever, which I watched repeatedly when I wasn't playing the game. I had some fun with Starfleet Academy, but never knew about Klingon Academy until a few years ago. However, I beat both Star Trek Klingon and Star Trek Borg, which were barely games and really interactive movies. Klingon even had a Pac-Led, which Gowron easily outsmarted rather than viciously murdering like some alternative universe Star Trek I keep hearing about. I did have an entire long section written out for New Trek, but I chose to remove it from this letter. Long story short, I tried to give it a chance. I got really bitter and ultimately started to use some graphic language to describe my frustration. I realize it's because of how important Star Trek has been to my life that New Trek is a terrible affront to my childhood. Well, Electron Star Collapse, you and I park our shuttlecrafts in the same shuttle bay. If you would like to read it still, let me know. Oh, I would. Yes, I would. And I will send the omitted section for your consideration. But strangely, my story doesn't end here. I realized when I started writing my history of a Star Trek fan, I suddenly realized a horrible truth. I never watched The Search for Spock. Not only did I watch The Search for Spock, I did a marathon of all 6 of the movie series. I realized that every movie has a mind meld. Most movies have Klingons. McCoy seemed to have an increasingly important role as the movies increase in number. Uhura was not too old for that fan dance, and I could feel the characters come through and shine even in the worst of the movies. I cried when finishing The Undiscovered Country again because it was like having a reunion with your best friend from years ago and not sure if you were able to get a chance to see them ever again. Yet it really doesn't have to end there either. I know there are gaps in my watch history of all the series, except maybe for TNG, and that deserves a good rewatch anyway. I have a chance to rediscover the old works and see them with fresh eyes. I fell in love with the movies all over again, and I'm sure I can do it again with the series. But I have to return back to my original question. Am I really a lifelong Star Trek fan? I know I'm a Babylon 5 fan since I have a better time defending that series and used the RPG books as a supplemental episode material before they too were gone. But I definitely can say I have a much greater appreciation for classic Trek as an adult. But I know it held a place in my heart as a child. I feel like my fandom before was mostly tangential, but though I think about having it in my life made other sci-fi more palatable as I grew up. But I want to know what others think. Don't let the stars collapse on Star Trek, and don't let the stars collapse on you. That was from Electron Star Collapse. I love Electron's letters. Thank you for writing in. Going through Star Trek now, we're in the 2nd season of Deep Space Nine. Elizabeth has been rewatching the original series, and I have been joining her. I pop in and out and watch Next Generation, and now we're in Deep Space Nine, and I'm just amazed at how great these shows really are. Every time I sit down for some kind of a watch, I'm just reminded of that, which is terrific. And they really are that good, and which makes modern Star Trek even more sort of disconcerting, which is kind of a bummer. But what can you do? So thanks for writing in, Electron Star Collapse. Dean Mikatich has written in from the UK. Hi, Rob and the Post-Geek Singularity. Having not followed what's going on in the comic industry for over 10 years, I don't know the real story behind Comicgate, but from what I understand, it was a bunch of writers and artists that were not happy with what was happening in the industry and the stories they were focusing on. Because these creators disagreed, they were made out to be pariahs, and they found they could not get work with the big comics companies such as DC and Marvel, and former colleagues and friends took to Twitter to start calling them ists and phobes as well as white supremacists, even when some of them aren't even white, among many other things. Because these ousted creators love the medium of comics, they have gone out on their own, creating their own comics and self-publishing, which in a lot of cases has been more successful than the mainstream industry. This has led those that ousted them to be more hateful and resentful to those comics creators. That is true. For those of you who don't know, there's a lot of comics creators. Most recently, Keanu Reeves and Boom Studios did a crowdfunding campaign that was very successful for his new comic, Keanu Reeves' comic Berserk. And what I find so strange is when any creator is availing themselves of these opportunities or these platforms, if you get massive success on them, other people are resentful, which I don't understand. Because I've gotten that a lot in my life from people that are resentful for things that I've done, like, who are you to do this or what? And in my mind, I mean, anybody can do anything they want. I mean, you now have the opportunity to crowdfund whatever you want to crowdfund, and you can go develop your own audience from scratch. Like, this channel, you guys that I'm talking to, you guys, girls, you gentle people, you kind souls, however you identify from across the 28 known galaxies. I mean, we're building this community, and we have been for the last almost 2 years. December 15th will mark my second year. It's Robservations' birthday, really. And it's amazing that we have the community that we have. And but it's work. It's every single day. It's a grind, man. This is the 543rd show I've done. That doesn't include John Campy's show or whining about movies. It's hard. It's hard work. And like even today, I was hosting a Comic-Con panel with the president of Boom Studios and the founder, Philip Sulik and Ross Ritchie. And I'm doing 2 more panels, one on the Fourth World, and then one on Philadelphia, right after I go off the air here. I will be going on in an hour doing more panels. It's work, man. You got to do research. So it is tough. Anyway, let me go on with the letter. The fandom menace is very similar to those pariahs of Comic-Gate. The difference here is that those that are the fandom menace mostly don't work in the film and TV industry and therefore can't just go out and make a TV show or film at the same level of the major studios. They are fans of TV shows and films and are not happy with the direction that their favorite franchises are taking. These fandoms are not just limited to Star Trek, Star Wars, and Doctor Who, but could be anything that has a fan community. At its core, the fandom menace just wants their franchises to keep the core ideals of the franchise and good stories to be told that don't have current day's political views as the main thing. The fandom menace does not have a leader or is an organization. It is a group of people that want the same thing. However, the most vocal in the fandom menace are those that have platforms so their voice can be heard. They are people like Nerdrotic and Geeks and Gamers and Midnight's Edge, just to name a few. They get attacked the same way that Comicsgate does. Rob, you have said many times that you are not fandom menace, but I have to disagree with you. You are fandom menace with Star Trek and in some regards to Star Wars. Why do I say this? Just look at your view of current Star Trek. You are not a fan of the direction it has taken and the stories being told because it's bad writing. You also long for it to go back to what Star Trek was, good stories and not being beaten over the head with one's views on current politics. You want both sides to be told so you can make up your own mind in regard to them. Well, that's true. Even Kurtzman's statement in the Star Trek panel that Star Trek is a platform for his political views horrified you and so many others. Yeah, it was horrifying because Gene Roddenberry was a secular humanist. And I think one of the great things about Star Trek, at least in Roddenberry's conception of it, even the bad guys were not villains. They were antagonists. They represented a different point of view. And if you go back and you watch Errand of Mercy, the first Klingon episode, you see that Kor, John Colicos playing Kor was not some mustache-twirling villain. He actually respected Kirk. And you saw at the end of that episode when the Organians intervened in the Klingon Federation war brewing above their heads that he was not a mustache-twirling villain, that he had a sense of humor. And you liked him. You liked Kor. And so did Kirk. And Kor liked Kirk. So anyway, even Kurtzman's statement at the Star Trek panel that Star Trek is a platform for his political views horrified you and so many others. In your Star Trek arguments, you bring up the same points that other fans of Star Trek make that are the fandom menace. The one thing I've noticed with comic skaters and the fandom menace is that they're willing to talk. As I've said before, going on Midnight's Edge or going on Geeks and Gamers with Jeremy, I have been afforded nothing but respect. The great disrespect, the biggest disrespect I get all the time is from either people who like modern Star Trek, and they're always getting personal. You know, I try and be even-keeled and open-minded when I'm talking about what I find wrong with Star Trek today. But those people are the ones that come after me personally, which is interesting. Fandom menace doesn't always agree with each other, with the exception of a few. The majority of them don't attack someone, calling them all sorts of things because they have different opinions of the attackers. For the most part, fandom menace is open and respectful to everyone. Rob, you have said it yourself. You've been welcomed by the fandom menace channels on YouTube, and even when you're in disagreements with them, they still showed you respect. That is absolutely true. I don't know why those that attack comic skaters and the fandom menace do what they do. I guess a rush for them. It's a rush for them and could be down to pure jealousy, the others being more successful than they are, or they could be simple keyboard warriors. One thing is for sure, being labeled fandom menace is not a bad thing. After all, it is a community that is willing to talk and respect each other, even if you have different views, and that is the best way to move forward towards a better future. Peace and long life, Dean Mikitich. Well, Dean, a great letter. I mean, no, I don't identify as part of the Fandom Menace, but I will go on Fandom Menace channels, and a lot of people have said to me that that's some kind of a tacit approval. I'm like, look, man, you know what? I'll talk to anybody. And I don't think that me even having a guest on this show, unless you hear me wax rhapsodic about their work, which I usually like to do, because I want to be excited about what people are making. That's the kind of thing that I think is important. So, yeah. Let's jump over and see what y'all are saying here in the old chat room here. Let me go back and see. I know I've got to catch up. Let's see. Stub McShave says, I know a book series with great world building. I bet you can't think of which series I talk of. Let's see. Stubble McShave is talking about a series. What series could Stubble be talking about? Gosh, I don't know, everyone. Is it just me or am I drawing a blank? I can't imagine what literary series that Stubble McShave is talking about. I mean, what could it be? Y'all know me. Know what I do for a living. I like the World of Time series. Yes, anyway, we know, Stubble. And I agree with you. Black Philip Alvarez sends in a tip and says, so because Elizabeth's horror BFF means she was Black Phillip and I changed my name in honor of Elizabeth, that means since she was Black Phillip for the Zoom party yesterday, that Elizabeth is my new horror BFF, right? I love you both. Well, I can't speak Black Philip Alvarez to who Black Phillip Elizabeth's best horror BFF is. Best horror BFF is, but you'll have to take that up with her. As everybody knows, Elizabeth, we had a fun Zoom party yesterday, a Halloween Zoom party, and Elizabeth did dress up as Black Phillip, the goat from The Witch, which is, she looked great. I loved her costume. Anthony Lucolano comes back to tell us about his journey through horror movies. I have returned, Rob, to provide another update on my... He's watching, by the way, these movies for the very first time. I have returned, Rob, to provide another update on my October horror-a-thon. Since my last Super Chat, I've watched The Invisible Man from 1933, The Wolf Man from 1941, and The Phantom of the Opera from 1943. Creature from the Black Lagoon, 1954. My Bloody Valentine, 1981. You know, I like My Bloody Valentine. April Fool's Day from 86, Creepshow 82, Cujo 83, Cat People from 82, The Blob from 88, which is great, and The Burning, Cropsy from 81. That's a great list, man. Oh, he continues on. The House in Sorority Row from 82, Videodrome from 83, Suspiria from 77, Scream 96, Scream 2 97, Scream 3 2000, and Scream 4 2011. Out of these, the only rewatch I did was of the first Scream. Yeah, I know. It's the only one that I love, too. Anthony goes on to say, next, I'm planning on watching 28 Days Later and 28 Weeks Later. This will be my first time watching either film. Well, Anthony, you're going to love them both, methinks. I really like those films, and I think that 28 Weeks Later is actually one of the better sequels ever made, believe it or not. Willow is here. Willow says, what are some memorable costumes that you've worn in the past? It doesn't have to be for Halloween either, if you catch my drift. Oh, I know what you're trying to say. I get it. You know, to be honest, I've never really dressed up in the bedroom, and I've never done that kind of play before. I'm not against it. I've just never done it. You know, I don't like things that keep my tongue away from where it wants to be. You know what I'm saying? Just saying. But I'm not adverse to it. But my favorite costume I ever wore was the jacket that I wear on the Schmodown, and then the Poets shirt that I have that has the lace. I want to say it was Halloween in 2001 or 2002. My friend Rob Pryor had sculpted full head prostheses for me, so I look like a goat demon wearing all this. It was great. And I'd have to look, but I don't have a picture of myself as that goat demon, which is really kind of a bummer. It bums me out that I don't. So, yeah, but I've never worn a costume like that I was uncomfortable about. I mean, I would do anything. I'm up for anything. So, sorry to disappoint you, but the full demon prosthetic face, it was so cool. We had so much fun that Halloween. Calvin Bose is here. Says, if this film goes to streaming, will theaters be over or be allowed to show it? Oh, will the theaters ever be allowed to show it? No, I think they wouldn't. I think that if No Time to Die sold to streaming, it would not go to theaters, and I think that would be a big problem. Calvin goes on to say, the one Bond spinoff I want to see is Felix Leiter of Pinkertons, but they need to have Felix with a hook arm. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing a Felix Leiter series if Jeffrey Wright played him. I mean, I think that could be really interesting. Rob, who was the worst Bond villain? I hate to say it. I think it's Christopher Walken as Max Zorin in View to a Kill. He's kind of ridiculous. But that was the first person off the top of my head. The amazing Yosh sends in a super chat and says, has anyone ever heard of the Kurtzman show Star Trek Cisco? I have not. I really hope they don't do that. Please don't let them do that. That would be bad. Joseph is here. Oh, hi, Rob. There's a difference between Voyager and Discovery. There's a difference between the Voyager and the Discovery crash, which I think is crucial. Voyager crashed during a malfunction of an experienced faster than fastest warp speed quantum slipstream. Sure, Disco is going fast, but not as fast as the Voyager. Yeah, but you know what? I mean, come on. A capital ship that's that heavy crashing down on a planet, not so good. Jeff Yerke is here. Well, whenever Jeff Yerke is here, I think myself and I know the rest of the PGS, you're first thinking to yourselves, you got to say hi to Mrs. Yerke. So there you go. Hi to you. Jeff says, hi, Rob. I'm going to try my best not to discuss Kurtzman Trek. Why not, sir? Why not just discuss it? To that end, what are your views on the classic Universal Monster movies from 31 to 45, as well as the great Val Lewton collection? For me, the Universal Monsters are great. Live long and prosper, the Yerkman and Mrs. Yerkman. Well, again, hi, the Mrs. I love classic Universal Monster movies. I mean, Bride of Frankenstein is one of my favorite horror films of all time, and I love the Wolfman and love the Invisible Man. I grew up with those things. I think they're fantastic. So I can't not love them. So yeah, all good. Louis Yu is here. Louis Yu says, I just want to say hi, Rob. Hope all is well. Please say hi to Elizabeth and the rest of the Post-Geek Singularity. Well, Post-Geek Singularity, Louis Yu says hello to you. John is here. John says, hi, Rob. Sorry, but I can't wait till Wednesday to talk about A Change of Mind. I've only watched it once, but it struck me that it reflects today's cancel culture. Oh, yes, it does. The Prisoner is truly timeless. Unfortunately, a cautionary tale come true, in my humble opinion. Well, for those of you who don't know, I'm working with Az from the Heels versus Babyface channel. Az is a very smart guy, and I really like doing... I mean, Az is a perfect example. I don't think Az and I are totally the same politically. Yet, I think we believe a lot in the same things, and we can have conversations, all kinds of conversations, and we can disagree with one another, and really we're sharing our love of The Prisoner. If you haven't been watching, we're reviewing every Prisoner episode, and we're doing Change of Mind next, and that'll be hosted on his channel, not my channel. We've been going back and forth, so check that out. I really have been enjoying working with Az. It's been really, really fun. And yes, I can't wait to talk about Change of Mind. So if you haven't seen The Prisoner, why haven't you? And you should. And then come join us. Come listen to our analysis of the episodes. Michael Preston is here and sends in a super chat and says, hello, Rob. I was wondering, what is the likelihood of getting the Blu-ray or 4K treatment for Farscape, Babylon 5, and or Buck Rogers? Well, I think Buck Rogers is coming out from Mill Creek on 4K, not 4K, but it's on Blu-ray. And, Babylon 5 has to be entirely remastered. All the effects have to be redone because they were only done in standard def video. I'd love to see that happen. I'd love, because the Babylon 5 just doesn't look that good. So I would love to see them redo the shows, but probably, never. I don't know. I never like to say never, but you never know. Electron Star Collapse sent in a super chat and says, I want to see Sean Connery do one more Thunderball remake called Never Too Old to Die. Well, come now. Connery's pushing 90. And, yeah. I mean, there's got to be at some point Bond has to retire. He can't be at 90 traveling around the world trying to save it. Who was the best Bond villain? Ooh, that's a good question. Who was the best Bond villain? I think Red Grant from Russia with Love was pretty formidable. I know that there was other people involved, but I really liked Red Grant. I really liked Alex Trevelyan from GoldenEye. And I like Le Chiffre, but the best, that's tough. The best Bond villain. When I think Blofeld, I have to be but which Blofeld? Is it Charles Gray or is it Donald Pleasance? And, yeah, I don't know. Who's the best Bond villain? You know what? I don't have an answer. Emil. I don't know. I'll leave that up to you. Who do you guys think is the best Bond villain? Phantom Boomer sent in a super chat and says, Voyager was designed for atmospheric flight and landing on a planet. Might make a difference with the crash. Yeah, but I think that it still is a crash. A starship crashing is a crash. Sean M sends in a $5 super chat. Rob, I love you. I still don't understand how you can rationalize being friends with Az and Nerdrotic. Those guys are a-holes. Well, again, I mean, I am not... whatever their content is and whatever they want to say on their show is not... I don't feel like Az and Nerdrotic have been nothing but kind to me. And I think Az is a very smart guy. And I've really enjoyed collaborating with him on the Prisoner episodes, 6 and 1, our show. And they have never been anything but nice to me. And look, I mean, I don't think I'm telling secrets out of school. I don't think Az would care too much. But Az is always talking about after we finish The Prisoner that we should go do another show where we literally just geek out about Hot Toys figures. And I'm like, count me in. I mean, Az is as big a geek as they come. He paints, he loves Warhammer. He paints figures. He builds models. I mean, I think Az is great. I really like him. And I really like talking with him. I really like analyzing The Prisoner with him. And we're just both fans. I mean, we might not necessarily be on the same side of the political spectrum, but it has never interfered from the two of us having a great time together. And the same is true. I mean, obviously I know Az better than I know Gary Beekler, but they might be angry about certain things and be different from me. But I like listening to people that think differently than I do and maybe have dissenting opinions or something. So I wouldn't call either one of them assholes. I mean, yes, they have strong opinions and they voice them, but both of them have been nothing but delightful to me as people. I mean, Az is warm and he's smart and he's great to talk to. I mean, I think that if you met him and sat down and had a beer, you'd like the guy. You would. So, yeah. Ross Gecko asks a good question. Was it today or yesterday that was the anniversary of Roddenberry's death? But Ross Gecko says, what are your thoughts on Roddenberry's non-Trek output? The Lieutenant, Pretty Maids All in a Row, Earth, Andromeda, etc. I think it's interesting. I don't think any of it was as successful as Star Trek, and even Star Trek, I mean, from a financial standpoint, it wasn't that successful. It got successful later. But look, Pretty Maids All in a Row, Gene Roddenberry was a horn dog. I get it. Pretty Maids All in a Row, wow, that's some crazy shit. The Lieutenant, I actually like The Lieutenant. I like How Gun Will Travel. And then Earth and Andromeda, not so great. I don't love those things. but at least, I mean, I'm being honest about it. What can I say? Well, listen, you know what? I think, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, gentle beings, kind souls from across 28 known galaxies, this is going to be another short show. You can find me at 3 o'clock doing a panel at the Baltimore Comic-Con, and then I'm doing another panel with Tom King, writer Tom King. We're going to be talking about The Fourth World, Jack Kirby's The Fourth World, and it's going to be great. So I'm going to jump off this show now, Robservations episode number 543, and I'm going to go back over. I got to drain the main vein, take a bit of a whizzer, and then I'm going to have some food, so I'm prepared to discuss Philadelphia, which is an incredible comic with an incredible creator, very diverse creator who works on television shows. He worked on the Wu-Tang Clan documentary series. He's working on a new series about the Lakers now. So join me. It's free. You just click on over to the Baltimore Comic-Con, and you can go into their schedule and watch the live conversations. I'm going to talk for another 2 hours. And then remember, tonight at 7:30, Whining About Movies, we're going to do two. I know for people, everyone gets mad with this discombobulated score, the shows. I know. I understand. We're doing Whining About Movies, episode 89, about David Cronenberg's The Fly tonight at 7:30. Join Elizabeth and I for some Vino Veritas, and we'll be there. I want to thank Purple Valkyrie for being a moderator today. I want to welcome her to the channel. We're lucky to have her. She has her own shows as well. She's not just a moderator, and you should check out the work that she does. She's amazing. And by the way, her accent kills me. I love listening to her talk. She could, read the phone book, and I'd be like, oh, I love the dulcet tones of your voice. The Richard is here, so go visit the Richard on a Whining About Movies show, or whenever. Go find the Richard. He's always doing. What am I saying? I'm always doing. He's always doing watch parties, so check him out. By the way, I still have a lot of letters to get to. I have a lot of backlog of letters. I apologize. I'm trying to catch up. These shorter shows are curtailing that. Wait, there's Phantom Boomer. Did I already read that? Yeah, I did read that. Well, yeah, no, I guess I've read everything, all the things that people sent in. And let's see who else is here. Purple Valkyrie. I think I got everybody. I think I mentioned everybody that's here. My moderating staff's the best. I want to thank you guys. And then again tonight we'll be back, but for the next 2 hours after this, from 3 to 5, I will be moderating at the Baltimore Comic-Con, which should be fun. I will, of course, be back on the John Campea show tomorrow. I will be back also on this show and Whining About Movies tomorrow as well. We're going to be catching up. We have The Witch to do still, which we haven't done yet. Black Phillip abides. But thank you all very much for this, the 543rd show of Robservations. And it was great to have you all here. And, the Intergalactic Imagination Connoisseur Film Festival is still going. And hopefully we've got a lot of stuff to drop, and I'll be dropping more. Now that I've sort of figured out the whole people who understand that they've had their material shown other places so they don't meet the rules, I'm going to be dropping more films, which is going to be great. And by the way, the Seahawks are playing tonight. So check that out, the Jedi Knights of the Pacific Northwest. Remember, everybody, every person you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear, and all you have to do is listen. And with that, I say... Calvin Vowed sends in a tip and says, will we get to see No Time to Die before Braxton goes to college? I feel like we will never see this film. Oh, I think we will. I think we're going to see it, Calvin. You tell Braxton he'll be able to see it. I'm looking very forward to hearing his review. And on that note, everyone, I will say this. Have a better day, or have a nutter butter. or any of those things. So, and I want to thank everybody for supporting the channel via tips and super chats or writing in letters. As I said, I'm trying to catch up with all the letters. I have a lot of great letters to catch up on. So there you go. Join us tonight for The Fly. Elizabeth had never seen Cronenberg's The Fly until we watched it yesterday. I can't wait to hear her thoughts. And join me in less than an hour, 45 minutes, at the Baltimore Comic-Con. And we're going to be talking about Philadelphia. I can't believe there hasn't been a movie called Philadelphia yet, because I love saying Philadelphia. We will be talking to the creator of that next. Join us. Bye-bye.